Hi everyone, it's really wonderful to be here. Thank you very much also for being here. Really appreciate you being in attendance and having this interaction with Bashar. Before we begin, I would like to make just a couple of brief announcements. I know that one of the things that Bashar has very recently started doing a little bit differently than what he's been doing for the past 22 years in bringing this information through is he's starting to shift the focus of a lot of information towards the idea of preparation for contact, because he actually believes it is relatively imminent, and so wants to do whatever can be done to help prepare us for actual face-to-face contacts, be they on a small scale or eventually on a larger scale. Toward this end, a couple of things have happened within this last year. One of the things we will be doing here, while I am here on the island, is tonight and tomorrow night we'll be doing a special workshop from 7 to 9 tonight and 7 to 9 tomorrow night, specifically with Bashar and specifically on the subject of preparing for contact. So if you are interested, I think we have a few seats left for the workshop for both nights. If you are interested in that after the session, by all means, please go to the table outside that has the Bashar information on it, and you'll be assisted there. You can ask questions about what's available for these workshops. So we'll be doing that tonight and tomorrow. One of the other things that Bashar did almost a year ago, which was very unusual for him, because we've all heard the concept of, that they've had kind of a hands-off policy for a while. They don't really interfere and get involved in our politics, especially. But a change occurred, which to me indicates that things on Earth are changing rapidly. And one of the things he announced last August, I believe, was a suggestion. He gave us a suggestion and, in essence, kind of sort of gave us homework, and said that he made the suggestion that now would be a good time, and he gave us kind of a 7-year window between now and 2012 to accomplish this. Not that there's a deadline, but he just recognizes that things on Earth take some time. And he gave us a task, so to speak, to actually create a law or a protocol for contact, which does not exist on the Earth, that can be adopted by all the countries of Earth, so there would be a coordinated response when open contact occurred. We have named this the Extraterrestrial Contact Act, and at this point we have just established a nonprofit organization, just became nonprofit a few weeks ago, specifically to get that information out not only in the United States but also around the world. And we will soon have a website up and running, hopefully within about a month at the latest. That will be www.contactact.org, where you can find all the information. But a bill has already been drafted to be presented to Congress, called the Extraterrestrial Contact Act. We are attempting to talk now with Congress people to get a sponsor to sponsor the bill into Congress to see if that will pass. And certainly also the other activities that the organization will undertake will be to take the protocol itself, the procedures for contact that are suggested in the bill, and present that to many different officials in many different countries and the public in many different countries, and see how far each country will be willing to adopt those principles and protocols into their own laws or however they wish to do it. So it's the beginning of a kind of a whole new phase, but Bashar has expressed that he feels that this is very important, that because he feels contact is imminent, that we develop some kind of a coordinated response around the world, which not only will help with regard to how we respond to open contact, but he says will actually help accelerate contact, because once the majority of people on the planet have actually voiced their desire that way, actually politically, to have contact, he says basically that will supersede any government policy that exists in isolation on the planet. once the majority of people on the planet have said they want contact, it can actually accelerate their ability to contact us, because then they will not be interfering with the mass consensus on the planet. So it's a very powerful new step that has happened. We're very excited about it. So by all means, anyone who wishes to participate also in helping to get that information out, once the website is up and running, feel free, please, to contact us there. And we'll be happy to provide you with whatever information is necessary that you can pass along to friends and family in this country or around the world to help get those protocols going and make a coordinated effort around the planet to be open and welcome the concept of open contact. Before we begin the actual channeling, I just want to take just a very brief amount of time. I'm not going to go into a whole background of how this started for me, but I have been doing this for 22 years. And it was predicated actually by a couple of incidents 30 years ago, where in Los Angeles, where I live, I did have two very, very close broad daylight UFO sightings. The first time about 150 feet away, the second time only about 70 feet away, of a dark metallic equilateral triangle about 30 feet on the side, which I later came to understand was Bashar's ship, and was shown to me for the purpose of getting me to move in the direction I needed to move in life so that I would be able to fulfill the agreement that I made with him to do this. And there's a lot of other information that goes along with that I won't go into now about how this came to me. But basically it was started in that way with a form of contact, and I believe that, you know, the capstone to this reason why he's coming through and talking to all of us also is having to do with ultimately contact with their civilization and other civilizations. Now, as was mentioned, the word Bashar itself, it's not literally his name in their reality. They're telepathic in their society. They don't have names per se like we do, but he sort of understood we needed to call him something other than hey you. So the word, when the first telepathic connection was made, the word was there, Bashar was there. Now, my background, culturally, I'm half Irish and half Syrian, which is a whole other story, but the word Bashar is actually an Arabic word. I don't speak Arabic, and for some reason, however, he felt that it was important to use that term as it connected perhaps into my cultural background. But many years after I started channeling, someone who did speak Arabic came up to me and said, you know, that is an Arabic word, and it actually has a very specific meaning. It means messenger or bringer of good news. And so even though I had no idea what it was, obviously it's appropriate for what he's doing, what he did himself, and we do use it as his name, so in that sense you can certainly call him that. He'll respond to that. With regard to the hour and a half that they have generously allowed us to go, I don't know exactly how much of that will be him talking and how much of that will be questions. I'm sure he will open it up to allow as many people as possible to ask questions and get a chance to interact directly with him. I always say, of course, there is absolutely no way that I can prove to anyone else that Bashar is truly an extraterrestrial, but that is the way he presents himself. Therefore, we treat it with the respect that he is who he says he is, and that eventually someday, by landing, he can probably certainly prove that himself. But for right now, we treat it as if you really are talking to, in essence, an ambassador from another society whose purpose is to help create familiarity and connection and relationship between our society and this. And this is what Bashar has said he does. It's literally one of his jobs. He is in contact over time with many different civilizations, helping them take that step into the idea of joining the membership of what has been called the Federation or the Alliance. And so for the last 22 years, that's what he's been doing, is getting us closer and closer to that point. And now he feels it's very, very close, and I'm sure he'll talk to you a little bit about the timeline as he perceives it. For those that are not familiar with Bashar, certainly you will see when I go into the altered state an extremely different personality who will be very direct and very bold. Bashar does not beat around the bush, for those of you who know him. But he's very loving, but nevertheless gets right to the point. I would simply ask. If you do get an opportunity to come up and to the microphones and ask him a question, just so we can get as many people in as possible, try to keep your question really brief and just ask one, if at all possible. Figure out what you feel is the most important question you want to ask, because we just obviously don't have a lot of time to get everyone through. And once things like that get going, time goes like that. Bottom line is, please have a good time with him. The more fun you have with him, the more fun he'll certainly have with you. In that sense, although everything he does, he says is fun. And again, I thank you very, very much for being here today. Just give me a moment, and Bashar will come through. Have a good time. Now I'm going bye. Many of my friends have commented how interesting it is to have a job where I show up and then leave. So be it. I want to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you very much. Now, first of all, allow us to finish up a little bit of what the channel forgot to say. First of all, we understand the constraints of your technical requirements and necessities, and so we will extend to you humans that are controlling the time frame for this transmission, that it is quite all right if you are reaching the end of your time frame to just speak up and say, we have little time left. You understand? You can just talk to us directly, you understand? Yes. Thank you. Now that that is out of the way, let us extend to each and every one of you, first of all, the idea that we are very grateful for your willingness to co-create this interaction, to allow this transmission to occur this day at their time in this way. Each and every time we are allowed an opportunity to interact with you this way, whether it be an individual or collective, does not matter. You allow our civilization to experience through each and every one of you a different facet of all that is, and that expands our understanding of all the ways that all that is can express itself within creation. And so we thank you for this gift. We thank you for this sharing. We thank you for the opportunity to see the expansion of existence take place. Now, let us talk about the idea of contact. Of course, what you are experiencing right now is a form of contact, at least from our point of view. We understand that many people on your planet have for a while expressed a desire to have more and more open, what you call, physical contact with many of the different civilizations that you have become more and more familiar with over time. But the idea is that the reason that we do these things this way, slowly, is to not shock your system, is to not upset the balance of your society. For that would serve no purpose. Were we to land en masse just suddenly, there would be such confusion, there would be such disruption, that it would not serve the purpose of the contact, which would be to grow beneficially, mutually, together, in a constructive, coherent, cohesive way. The reason why this kind of confusion would happen is generally as follows. We recognize, without judgment of any kind whatsoever, that your world has been dealing for thousands of years with a variety of limitations especially with limitations within your own personality structures. The idea that you actually can have what you call a subconscious mind, where you can hide things from yourself, has always been fascinating to us. Finding at the beginning was a very difficult concept for us to understand, how you would not know a piece of yourself. Nevertheless, as we understood you more and more and came to realize that these hidden portions, hidden ideas, were generally the result of what might be called discounting, disenfranchising, limitations placed upon you by belief systems that you were born into, generation after generation after generation, that set up the idea of patterns and habits and perspectives, ways of looking at things that ultimately you just took for granted. Well, that's the way it is. Everyone knows that. It just became, as you say in your language, par for the course. Didn't even think about it. That's the way things are. Things are just that way. Everyone thinks this. Everyone knows that. And bit by bit, you really began to forget exactly who you are as an aspect of creation. When we realized the degree of limitation that your planet had experienced, that you actually had definitions and beliefs that generated within you fears and doubts, then we began to recognize that it would take a while to acclimatize you to the concept of civilizations who do not have those limitations, who do not impose barriers in their consciousness to other aspects of their being and their connection to the infinite. We recognized very early on that states of being carry their own energy frequencies, their own signature vibrations. You operate, in other words, on a certain frequency level when you conduct yourself a certain way, when you perceive yourself to be a certain kind of being, living in a certain state of being. You operate on a certain frequency level, in a certain frequency domain. When you impose limitations upon your consciousness in the way that humans on Earth have, you are in some sense creating frequencies that operate, shall we just say again, without judgment, on lower frequency levels. In that sense, it is like there are gaps in the whole picture of what you are. You are not really, in that sense, being your full selves, and you are, in that sense, operating on a lower frequency. Now, before we go on with that, I'm going to tell you a little secret about the idea that we have just spoken of. We have heard it said on your planet that you think, well, you're only using 5% of your brain or 10% of your brain, or you're only really operating at 5% of your total self or 10% of your total self. We understand what you mean by that, but it's not exactly precise. You are operating at 100% capacity all the time. It's just that you are using 90% to make it seem as if you're only using 10. That's the trick. That's the trick. You have tricked yourselves into thinking you're not operating at 100% capacity. The limitations that have been imposed on you for generations are not, in that sense, true limitations. They are, in that sense, scenarios that you have been taught to believe in, definitions you have been taught to impose upon yourselves, to overlay upon yourselves, that make it seem as if you are actually cut off from creation. That make it seem as if you are only using 5 or 10% of your energy or your brain power, or so on and so forth, as you say. These are illusions. And that is why it is actually, in many ways, far easier than you may have been taught to believe to transform yourselves into higher level functioning beings, is because you actually already are higher level functioning beings but you are using your high-level function to make it seem as if you're not. So it's just a matter of changing your perspective, not actually having to learn to become something you're not. And that makes it easier when you begin to see it from that perspective, when you begin to understand it from that point of view. It lets you let go of a lot of things you no longer need to carry, and a lot of definitions and a lot of beliefs you no longer need to hold on to, thinking that you have to really do something that you believe would be impossible to do, now can be seen as just a matter of shifting your perspective to another way of doing what you're already doing. Being 100% fully functioning beings, you're just going from being beings that don't know it to beings that do. That's the difference. Awareness, consciousness of who and what you are is the big shift that you're going through. The idea is not really even about making outward changes so much as it is making inward changes to simply recognize who you are. Recognize yourself for who you have forgotten you are. That's what this is all about. And the reason why we are communicating with you in this way at this time and have for 20 of your years on Earth is to help acclimatize you to the idea of making the shift in energy within yourself, so that when you then encounter beings who do not have those limitations, who do not have those separations, who do not have those compartmentalizations within themselves, you will not go into psychic shock. Because here's what happens when that occurs. If you were still functioning in the way you have been functioning for thousands of years, on a lower vibratory modality, and we come along with a higher vibratory modality, it is similar in analogy to the idea that you are a very slowly turning gear, and we are a very rapidly spinning gear. And suddenly, if you were to shove those two things together, the gears would be stripped, especially on the slower one. What that means, in terms we have been discussing, is this. When you, with all the compartmentalizations of things you are not willing to look at, fears that you may have suppressed, when you meet a being that has no such barriers, operating on a higher dimensional frequency, in a sense their frequency tends to overwhelm yours and forces your frequency to match something more closely in approximation to theirs. It induces you to move your frequency upward when you are exposed to a higher vibration. If you are not ready to do that, if you are still trying to keep those frequencies down, those ideas down, not willing to face them, being forced to face your fears full on without any preparation can put you into psychic shock. Now, I'll give you a practical example of why we know this still occurs on your planet, because from time to time we have heard many of you say, well, Bashar, I know I'm ready right now. You land your ship and I will walk up and shake your hand. I know I am ready. 3 times in 22 of your years we have said, okay, let's make a date. And we have made a date. A specific time, a specific place, with those specific people. You show up there, I guarantee we will show up, and we'll see how it goes. In all 3 occasions, as soon as they knew we were landing, they ran like rabbits. All 3 times. Because innately their consciousness understands they are not ready to face, not us, they are not ready to face their fuller selves, which they would be forced to do by being in the presence of a higher frequency. I am not saying we are better than you. I am not judging you as less than us. We are simply talking physics here, the physics of energy, and we understand that if we force our energy upon you, we force your energy to adapt to our frequency, it will not be pleasant for you. So, over time, we have these conversations, and we impart to you an idea here, a thought there, a suggestion here, and we allow you to process this information in your own way, at your own pace, in the comfort of your own planet, and allow you to decide allow you to decide what you will and will not deal with at your own rate. Now, of course, all of you are individuals, and you will deal with these things in your own timing, in your own way, at different rates, in different ways. Nevertheless, you also do have a collective rate, an agreed upon consensus reality, and even though many of you are perhaps dealing with this and another person's dealing with that, and you need to catch up to that and they need to catch up to you, collectively, you are progressing. You are dealing with it at a certain overall pace that we can detect. And as we detect the rate at your consensus reality level changing, when you are more and more and more integrated, more and more capable of being open to the idea of contact, and more capable of being open to the idea of integrating all those pieces within yourself that you have heretofore kept separate, we read your signature vibration, we read that you are getting closer, and as you do, we understand that contact is becoming more and more and more and more imminent. So understand, when you ask us and any other civilization or any other being you might refer to as an extraterrestrial for the idea of contact, any of those beings that operate on a high frequency are going to tell you, in a sense, the timing for contact is not up to us, it's up to you. It's actually in your hands more than it is in our hands, those of us that have hands anyway. Now, therefore, the focus that we have had over your last 2 decades of time has been all about the idea of learning to integrate those things within yourself that you have perhaps heretofore either been unwilling to integrate or haven't even known exist within your consciousness and thus haven't been able to integrate because you are unaware of them. We have focused very much of the last 2 decades of information on the concept of how to get in touch with those things, how to get in touch with your belief systems, your fundamental definitions. Because I will tell you very plainly, and we have seen this in any civilization we have encountered that has any degree of physicality with it at all, that are learning to go up the ladder, as you say, of spiritual growth, there is, when you enter the idea or experience the idea of physical reality, one thing that is generally common to all species. You must create to express your beingness, your soul. You must create to express it in physical reality a construct called personality. This personality, this physical persona of your soul, of your being, of your higher self, is, in that sense, composed of 3 components. Just like a prism. Just like a glass prism. And you have the white light of your sun coming through the prism, breaking down into the spectrum that you call visible light of all the colors. So too is it with the personality construct. It has 3 sides like a prism. Those 3 sides are these: definition and belief, emotion and thoughts, behaviors and actions. When you take the white, unbroken light of your true, natural, harmonious self, your God self, and focus it through the prism of your personality in order to have a physical reality experience, you are breaking down that white light into its constituents, into its components, that then you experience as physical reality. That's what physical reality is the experience itself of viewing your unbroken self in the idea of a space-time continuum. The personality is the conduit and the mechanism through which and by which that happens. So if you have definitions and belief systems that are out of alignment with your natural true self, it will lead to emotions that are out of alignment and thoughts that are out of alignment and behaviors that are out of alignment and experiences of physical reality that are out of alignment with your true natural self. But you see, this is a blessing. This is a gift. Because if you can have an experience called physical reality that shows you, by your experience, that you are out of alignment, then you can use the idea of the space-time experience which allows you to actually experience the moment of creation, the process of creation, whereas you could not do that on a higher plane because things there are instantaneous, no time. But in the idea of space-time, you can experience the process of creation, and that is a wonderful gift, a wonderful experience. But by having that process of creation either resonate with you or resonate out of alignment, then you can allow yourself to take yourself through that process, and you can allow yourself to grow spiritually in a unique way by being in touch with that creative process every moment and seeing how physical reality can reflect to you an opportunity to get in touch with what belief systems and emotions and thoughts and behaviors are out of alignment with your truth, and redefine them and reinvent them and truly reinvent yourselves. To put yourself in alignment even physically, to allow yourself to awaken to the fact that physical reality is no barrier to experiencing yourself as an aspect of all that is. But it is one way you have decided, one way you have chosen to experience the idea is by choosing the experience of having forgotten that that's who you are. And now you are going through the process of, as I said, recognizing, remembering that's who you are. This is one of the valid ways that life has of experiencing itself and expressing creation to all that is to have forgotten who it is and then remember who it is. We understand that many people on your planet often bemoan the fact that there's a great deal of darkness on the earth, a great deal of limitation. We understand that. And many of them ask, why does there have to be darkness with the light? Well, understand again, just in terms of physics, if there was no darkness, you wouldn't know what light was. There would be no comparison in that sense. Now, here's where many of you might get a little confused about it. Just because you become aware there is darkness doesn't mean you have to experience the darkness in the way you have been. But here's the paradox. The more you move into the light, the more aware you become of darkness, not less. It's an integration process, an inclusion process, not an exclusion process. But just because you become more aware of darkness doesn't mean that darkness has to be your experience. The idea of becoming more integrated and moving into the light and becoming more aware that darkness exists means it's just existing as a choice, equal to and valid to the choices you make in the light. But the idea is that when you become more aware of the light and the darkness equally, then the idea of one or the other having to be manifest loses its charge, as you say. It becomes equally valid to choose this or that, and you can decide which you prefer to experience. Paradoxically, by allowing darkness to be equally valid as a choice to the light, you actually make it easier for you to choose the light. Because you are not discounting darkness as a choice. It is the discounting of darkness as a choice that creates the perpetuation of darkness in your experience, not the darkness itself. It's the discounting of the darkness, the judgment of it, that creates it to rebound into your experiential reality. But when you allow it to be equally valid, as all that is obviously allows it to be valid by having created it, thus then you allow it to simply be an equal choice and recognize which you prefer, and then simply make your choice from awareness and not from fear. Because again, it is fear that will connect you to the darkness, because as soon as you try to get away from something, you quickly find there is nowhere to get away from anything to. There is no outside to creation. It's all right here, right now. So trying to get away from something, trying to get rid of something, there is no place to get rid of anything to. All that is means literally all that is. There is no outside. Take yourselves very literally when you talk about the idea of all that is. There is nothing but all that is. Well, what's outside of all? There is nothing but all that is. And if there was something outside, that would be a part of all that is too. Remember, the concept outside is within all that is. It's not actually outside of it. The concept is within all that is. Even the concept of non-existence is actually within existence. If you could actually experience non-existence, you wouldn't know it. Because by definition, you cannot experience non-existence. You can only experience what is. And here's another secret. What is only has that quality. What is. That's its nature. It cannot become what is not. Non-existence is already full of all the things that will never exist. There is no room in non-existence for the things that do exist. That which is can never become that which is not, because that's not its nature. This is a fundamental law of creation. By the way, in all of our journeys so far, we have only discovered 4 fundamental laws of creation. Only 4. We're not saying there cannot be 5, but we have discovered in millennia only 4. Here they are. Number 1, you exist. You can't do anything about that. It's a law. It's a law. And when I say law, I mean law with a capital L. I don't mean what your physicists refer to very often as the laws of physics, which they themselves know may be germane in one universe but not in another. And even in your own reality, you know that the laws of physics can break down or alter under certain specific conditions. So when I say law, I don't mean things like speed of light. It's not a law, it's a condition of your local reality, which is actually very changeable under certain conditions. When I say law, I mean the things you cannot truly change, and that the things that are truly universal in all universes. If you wish to call it the multiverse, by all means go ahead. But the law is the law everywhere, and there's only 4 of them that we have found. Number 1, as I just said, you exist. Can't change that. Go ahead and try. Number 2, law number 2. The one is the all are the one. It's holographic. Not only is the all that is one thing, it is also all the things that make it up. You, me, chairs, tables, spaceships, stars, planets, dust. Doesn't matter. The one is the all. The all are the one. Because remember what I said, there is no outside. In talking about the idea of creation, understand that creation doesn't have anything to work with but itself. Because there's no outside. There's nothing but all that is. So all that is had to make all the stuff out of itself. So everything is made of God, literally. God is not separate from its creations. That cannot happen. There is no such thing as separation, although there is the experience of the illusion of separation. But that's still within all that is. And in order to have the experience of separation, you actually have to be connected to all that is to have it. So again, there's a paradox. Law number 3. What you put out is what you get back. Some people on your planet refer to this idea as karma, but many times they've attached the concept of punishment to it, which does not exist in the eyes of an unconditionally loving creation. Once again, just as a suggestion, it might be wise for you people to really check the meanings in your dictionaries. When you have the word unconditional, it doesn't mean God is unconditional except for this one condition. Unconditionally loving means unconditional. That's the definition. Unconditional. So there is no judgment, there is no punishment, there is no imposition of God's will. If it was so, God would not, by definition, be unconditional. So make up your mind. All that is unconditional, or it's not.
One or the other. Plain and simple. But what you put out and what you get back, that's freedom. Freedom. Not punishment, not judgment, not limitation. It's reflection. It's showing you. If you do not prefer what you're getting back, change what you're putting out. You are free to do so. That's what free will is all about. You are creators, co-creators. You are free to create the reality you prefer. If you are not getting the reality you prefer, don't judge it. Don't judge it. Embrace it. Own it. Remember, you cannot change what you do not own. If you own it, it's changeable. Because what you say goes. What you put out is what you get back. That's the third law. Law number 4. Everything changes except the first 3 laws. Change is constant. Change is a constant. Change is a constant. Did I say that? Change is a constant. Even though it involves change, it's a constant. And it is from the idea that everything changes that you can actually get the first 3 laws, which never change. Because if everything changes but the first 3 laws, that means the 4th law changes. And what is the opposite of constant change? Things that never change, which are the first 3 laws. So it's a self-fulfilling cycle. The 4 laws are complete. Now, here's the big revelation. That's it! Those are the only 4 laws actually governing your existence that you can do nothing about. You exist. The one is all, the all are one. What you put out is what you get back. Everything changes but the first 3 laws. That means everything else is up to you. Everything else you experience is up to you. No matter who you are, when you are, where you are, what you are, why you are, everything is up to you. Oh my goodness, can you handle the freedom? That's the big question we are asking your civilization on earth at this time. Can you handle the freedom of truly being yourself? We think you can. We believe in you. But it doesn't matter how much faith we have in you. It only matters how much faith you have in yourselves. We know you can do it. It's not even an issue of belief for us. We know who you are. We can see who you are. We can see the light that you are. We can see the aspect of creation that you are. No doubt exists in our minds you are capable of absolute mastery. No doubt existed in the minds of any of your great teachers and ascended masters. Why do you think your own Bible says that Jesus said, "Greater things than I do will you do"? Why do you think he said that? He knew who you were. But it's taken you all a little while to believe that. That's okay too. We don't mind playing with you. We are happy to interact with you. We are delighted to interact with you, although that's one word in your language we have never understood. Delighted, shouldn't it be lighted? We are lighted to play with you. Delighting is what you've done to yourselves for thousands of years. Nevertheless, regardless of the paradoxes in your own language, we are very, very, very excited to interact with each and every one of you and all of you on this journey of learning to play together, of learning that we are reflections of each other, and that, were it not that you were not aspects of creation, we would not be having these kinds of interactions and conversations and transmissions with you. Take it as a sign, not because we are so great, but because you are so great that these things are now happening on your planet, that you are more aware of who you are, more aware of who we are, more aware that your reality does not just stop at the limit of your skin, the limit of your physical world, that there are dimensions of experience, that there is an infinite amount of experience within all that is. Infinite. amount of experience within all that is. And what you are experiencing on your planet of Earth is sacred and beautiful. No matter how painful it may be from time to time, we understand the struggles you have gone through. Please understand that we do understand, and I will explain why we understand. We, in undertaking the idea of interacting with a new civilization, which ostensibly is an alien civilization, knew that we would not have enough common ground to interact with you on. We would not understand you well enough did we not experience your reality for ourselves. Therefore, incarnationally, many beings doing the kind of work that I am doing right now with you decide and choose to have lives on your planet and other planets so they can understand what it is like to feel as a human, to exist as a human, to impose limitations on yourself in the way humans have done, so that we will have a common enough basis to communicate with you and can tell you with absolute certainty that no matter how dark may, in that sense, your world become at times, there is still always the opportunity to take that into the light. Always. Without doubt. Always. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. Because I've been there. The channel sitting before you is my past life on Earth. I am the channel's future life in my civilization. I know what you're going through. We love you nonetheless. Believe me. We love you nonetheless. And can guarantee that you can create the light in your lives in the way you prefer to. And I will actually tell you another little secret. Many of you again ask over and over, why such darkness? Why such limitation? But look at it from another perspective. We have often called this the rubber band analogy because we understand you have rubber bands on your planet. The rubber band analogy is this. The farther back into the darkness you stretch the rubber band, when you finally decide to let go, look how much farther you will fly and how much faster you will fly into the light. That's why this much darkness. Because if you can transform into the light from this much darkness, nothing is impossible. And believe me, that makes a difference to other beings and other civilizations who are watching you. If you can do it, there is nothing that cannot be done. This is why we invented a little nickname for humans on Earth. The Masters of Limitation. It is our fond name for you in recognition of your willingness to recognize how strong you are for having chosen to come to a place with this much darkness. Because you knew that even with this much darkness, you would still find the light, and that's the meaning of your yin-yang symbol. Look at it. You have the lightness and you have the dark, but in the dark there is still a little circle of light. And yes, in the lightness there is still a little circle of dark, because you can always, no matter where you are, in the dark, in the light, you can always still access the other. Always. So no matter how dark it may seem, there is always access to the light if you will but get in touch with your own self-empowerment, your own awareness, your own nature, your own being. If you will do that and make a friend of your fear and make a friend of the unknown and go forward in your exploration of yourselves and expand and include and integrate and balance, you will, not can, you will experience heaven on earth. Guaranteed. It's imminent. It's imminent. It's imminent. As I said, were it not so, we would not be having this conversation. Take it as a sign. You're closer than you think. Now, about the idea of open contact. First, a very brief explanation of the concept of predicting the future. We give it to you that way because we know many of you find it very exciting to think about the concept of predicting the future. Well, now, please understand, I do not mean in any way, shape, or form to diminish how you choose to look at things. But there is no such thing as predicting the future. There is no such thing as predicting the future. Oh, Bashar, what do you mean by that? I know many people make predictions and they come true. Yes, they do. But there's no such thing as predicting the future. I'll tell you why. Predictions are not of the future. Predictions are a sensing of the energy that exists at the time the prediction is made. They're predictions of the present. And if the energy that is sensed doesn't change, then it will manifest. That's what you call a prediction of the future. But the prediction was not made of the future. The sensing was made of the energy that exists at the time the prediction was made. That prediction is saying, look, this is where your energy is. This is where your inertia is. This is where your momentum is right now. This is what it's behind. This is what it's pushing for. If you want it to stay there, let it come to pass. Let it play out. Let it come to fruition. Let it manifest. If you don't prefer where the energy is, change it. Therefore, a prediction by definition can actually render itself obsolete by making you aware of where the energy is. If someone says, this is going to happen tomorrow, that's what I sense is the most likely thing. This is going to happen tomorrow. If you don't prefer that thing to happen tomorrow, now that you've been put in touch with where the energy is, you can change it and render the prediction obsolete. That's why it doesn't mean that when someone makes a prediction that doesn't come true, it doesn't mean they were wrong. It simply means you've rendered the prediction obsolete by being made aware of it. That's how it works. That's how it works. Any sensing you have is of the present. Why? Because now is the only place you exist. There is no then. There is no will be. There is only now. Look around. Anytime you look and check, it's always now, isn't it? It's always present time. The idea of linear time is an illusion. When you make a prediction, all you're doing is telling everyone, here's the energy now. The probability is this may not change. You are in that sense saying this is a probable experience you will have. Probable. And you can give a range of percentages of probability. But there is no such thing as a prediction of the future because there is no the future. There are an infinite number of probable future experiences. Where your energy goes determines what you will experience. Remember, law number 3, what you put out is what you get back. Simple as that. Therefore, with respect to the idea of more and more and more open contact, here is our sensing of where your energy is now. Today. This moment. It is highly likely, highly probable. Are you all with me? After this, do not run out and say, Bashar said spaceships are going to land on December 31st at exactly 10:10 p.m. on this date. Highly probable that between your year of 2015 and 2025, there will be an increase, and dramatically so, in communication, sightings, and here and there, different kinds of contact. It is highly likely, highly probable, as we read your collective energy on Earth now, that between your year of 2025 to 2033, there will absolutely be open contact, and at the end of that open contact in 2033, Earth will then take its first steps as an absolute member of the Alliance of Worlds. Not so far away. And if you applaud, you're applauding for yourselves. Because you are doing this, not us. Doesn't matter what we say to you. You have to absorb it. You have to make it your own. You have to take it into your lives, make it a part of your belief system in order for change on your planet to occur. I can talk through the channel's body until the channel is blue in the face, and it won't make one bit of difference. And you don't have to listen to a word that we are saying through the channel at all. It's up to you to decide what is true for you, and it's up to you to decide what you will believe you want your world to be. But we sense that you are going in a certain direction that is conducive to the idea of integration, balance, peace, and harmony. Many people on your planet again have asked the question, well, if that's true, why are we seeing so much more violence on the planet? Why does everything actually seem to be getting worse? That's a good sign. You're getting it all out of your system because there isn't much time left in which to do those things. The idea is that you are finally recognizing you're at the end of the cycle of negativity and beginning a new cycle, a new reality, a new world of positive preferential choice, and that you are bringing everything up onto the table and deciding, is this what we prefer, yes or no? You're getting it out of your system, out in the open, so you can discuss it, so you can see it, so you can acknowledge it, so you can own it, so you can change it. That's why it's accelerating in the negative as well as the positive. Remember what we said. As you accelerate into the light, you become more aware of the dark that's there, not less. But that gives you the freedom to choose. Now, we would like to add one more thing about the idea of timing before we open up to the interaction of questions and answers. And that is this. You have heard and will hear again, both in this, what you call conference on your planet, and in other places, the idea again of what might be referred to in your science fiction as prime directive, hands-off policy, quarantine of Earth, to allow there to be time for you to mature. You have also heard about the idea that it is lifting, that you are almost at the end of the quarantine. You have also heard about the idea of what you call the end of a cycle, the beginning of a new cycle. And more often than not, we recognize that some of you have recognized that sometimes this cycle has actually been embedded in what you would call linear time framework notations, what you call calendar dates, and so on and so forth. Most of you will point to the wisdom of a culture on your planet that you call the Mayans. And you refer to their calendar as mysteriously ending in your year of 2012. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Allow us to share from our perspective what that date actually refers to. Again, please, I am not saying that on the day after there will be mass landings everywhere. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this. What the Mayans knew and what the date represents in the end of that cycle in your year as counting of 2012, that's the actual date of the end of the quarantine. From that point forward, it's not that we will land the next day, but we can land on the next day, and the rest is up to you. But as of the end of that cycle, the quarantine is over. Congratulations. What you do with it from that point forward will truly be in your hands. So the more you integrate, the more you accelerate, the more we will respond to that invitational vibration to know you are truly ready within yourselves to meet other aspects of all that you are. Because remember, just as we recognize you as other aspects of us, you will recognize that we are other aspects of you. If you wish, at this timing, for the remainder of this transmission, you may open up to the idea of questions and answers.
You have about 20 minutes for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, timekeeper. And all of you, please remember, please remember, in this interaction, there are no accidents. Allow yourself to understand that whatever gets done in this interaction is exactly what needs to be done. No more, no less. It is perfect for what it is.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day. Speak up and be bold so that all may hear what you have to share.
Thank you very much for your great gift to humanity in uplifting the consciousness.
And thank you for your own.
And what I would like to ask is, I remissioned, and I wanted to be an interdimensional communicator.
Yes. Well, since you are talking to us, you are communicating interdimensionally right now.
And I would like to know if you have any suggestions of how I can hasten that so that it's bigger than it is presently.
Hasten your idea of becoming an interdimensional communicator. All right. Well, first of all, you must always understand that it's important to rely and trust your own synchronicity in life, your own imagination, because your imagination is key to exactly the methodologies that will work best for you. That's what it's for. Make sense?
It does.
All right. So, up to this point, what is your own imagination and what is your own synchronicity brought to you as ways that would work best for you to expand yourself as an interdimensional communicator?
My telepathy has increased quite a lot
Yes. And why would that be?
because of my focus, of course.
All right. Very good. Yes. Intention has a lot to do with it. What has a lot to do with it as well, and this goes for a lot of the questions that many of you ask, is, are you truly being true to yourself by following your highest joy as best you can at every given moment? You've heard it said 1,000,000 times on your planet, follow your bliss, follow your joy, act on your excitement. But why? Why? Why is that so important? I'll tell you. Thank you. The idea is that what you call joy, what you experience as excitement, that sensation itself is your body's physical translation of the energy that represents your actual, true, natural self. So when any circumstance comes to you and presents itself to you in your life that contains the highest amount of that excitement that you have the ability to act on it, because that is telling you this is the path to follow that is most representative of who you actually, truthfully, naturally are. And the more you do that, no matter what it is, every moment that you can, the more you will expand and expand and expand your excitement, your joy, and yourself. Synchronicity will become an ecstatic explosion in your life, and your life will become the magic that it can become, and you will understand that miracles are the natural order of things, not the exception to the rule. Does this help?
That expanded I got that much at a much deeper level than I had before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar, for being here in our lives.
Well, thank you very much. Good day to you.
Thank you. You've raised a question in my mind about past lives by suggesting that Daryl is your past life on the planet.
Yes, so to speak euphemistically in linear time-space reference, understanding, of course, that all lives actually coexist simultaneously because there is only now. And what you call past lives and future lives are simply different frequencies, much in the same way that you have on your planet your television device. You know that at any given moment you could actually be viewing a number of different programs, but you only get the one that your channel is tuned to at that moment. Doesn't mean the other programs aren't there. It just means you're not tuned to that frequency. So it is with the idea of past and future alternate lives in other dimensions. They're all going on right now. Right now. And that's why you actually can have access to them. Because it's not like you're reaching into the past, reaching into the future. All you're doing is shifting your perspective to a different now. That's what past and future lives are. Parallel, alternate, concurrent, simultaneous, different now experiences. With that in mind, what was your question?
Well, that was the lead up to the question of, do you have any suggestions for how we can shift that focus and experience other lives?
All right. Now, first of all, recognize that you are experiencing certain kinds of aspects of other lives, but you may not know that you are, and sometimes that's all right. Sometimes just getting the information you need from an experience going on in another life, but getting it in the way you need to process it here is sufficient. And you don't necessarily have to know that it's actually coming from another life that's part of your oversoul. Do you understand? But from time to time, it may be deemed by you to be important to focus on the idea of being consciously aware of another life experience. First and foremost, in all likelihood, any particular time frame, culture, civilization that you are most highly attracted to or magnetized by probably means you're having a life there right now. You understand? Otherwise, it wouldn't be that much of a standout to you. It wouldn't be that attractive to you. There's a reason why those things attract you. You understand?
Yes.
So, first and foremost, anything you feel strongly attracted to, you can be probably pretty sure you're having an experience there right now. Not you, of course, in terms of this personality, but another aspect of your oversoul is having an experience there right now as another personality, as another life. You follow me?
Yes.
Now, a thing to understand that's very important, especially with regard to, again, the idea of linear space-time, because it really isn't linear. Not really, but that's your experience of it. Nevertheless, understand that we understand that you get caught up in the linearity when you talk about sometimes the concept of reincarnation. As we have just explained, there really isn't such a thing as reincarnation. It's multiple simultaneous incarnations. But the idea is that when you feel like you have a connection to another life, past, alternate present, future, you make those connections from each life. The idea is that you don't necessarily go from a past life to a present life in linear order. Whatever lives you may connect to in any given life are made from that life. And in another life, you may make different connections to different lives that are germane for that life. So it's not really a linear thing of, well, I was having a life in Rome, and that led to a life in Elizabethan England, and that led to a life in present-day United States. It's that you're choosing to have a life in this reality, and how you have designed the idea of this life may require that from this life you make a connection to Elizabethan England's experience and Rome's experience, because they have experiences that help define what you need to understand in this life, and that from each life you make different connections as you need to simultaneously. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Does that help you?
Yes. Thank you very much.
So use your imagination, scan what's attractive to you, see what's relevant in what you are attracted to, and apply it how you wish. But recognize you're getting bleed through from many different lives, but you may not always know it because you don't always need to. Sometimes you'll have an inspiration, you don't know where it came from, it may be coming from an experience in another life, but you don't necessarily need to know that, otherwise you won't use it and you won't apply it in your physical reality. You'll just sit there and ponder where it came from and won't do anything with it. So sometimes you actually prevent yourself from knowing where it came from because you don't need to know. Make sense? Does that help you?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Oh, all right.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Bashar,
Yes.
I'd like to ask you if the Billy Meyer Pleiadians or Pleiarans are deceiving us about who they are.
No.
According to channeling by my partner Nicolette, they're actually reptilians.
No.
They're not,
No. The only thing that is causing deception on the planet is confusion among humans about their own reaction to certain things that they are filtering through different kinds of fears. There are those layers of information that surround many of those actual events, but it is those layers Those layers of information that then people sometimes will pick up on and not the incident itself. Because those layers by some people are designed to be disinforming. Thus then people may pick up upon the layer thinking it is the actual thing when in fact they are picking up upon an imposed layer that has been imposed purposely to deceive. The actual original connection between the individual on your planet you call Billy Meyer and the Pleiadians is true and accurate, as is also the connection between the individual in what you call your Mexican region called Diaz and the Pleiadians there. Those are both accurate interactions with Pleiadians. All right?
Well, the Billy Meyer Pleiadians actually said we're not Pleiadians. At some point they said we're actually Pleiarans.
Well, we're using your terminology for the moment. Are we going to quibble over potato? We're still talking about the same beings. Yes?
Well, but they said that they pretended to be Pleiadians so that other cases that called themselves Pleiadians would be later exposed as copycats.
No, that's part of the level of disinformation. Does that help you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
It's a pleasure to meet you for the first time, I believe, unless you know you've met me before.
We have dream encounters with many of you.
I wanted to ask you, what is the 0-point energy or 0-point energy field, and how does that relate to our concepts of consciousness or fundamental laws of creation?
All right, thank you very much. Your scientists now themselves are beginning to understand that 0-point energy is that moment of potential creation, moment of potential manifestation that exists within the very fabric of existence itself that you can tap into. It is that moment when things can either go into this manifestation or that manifestation, but contain all the potential of all the manifestations they can go into. It's like what you might call the nexus of all universal realities. In that sense, the potential point that would be the manifestation point that would create the different manifestations, but still is representative of all of them. You can tap into that. It's like going in between the universes, in a sense, into the potential of what can be limitless and infinite. Does this make sense in your language to some degree?
Yes.
It's an energy in that sense that represents the primordial state before the manifestation of an entire universe. You can tap into it and redirect it to manifest what you want it to. Does that make sense? It's the plastic state of creation. 0-point energy is the plastic level of creation before it becomes crystallized or solidified into any particular manifestation you would recognize as physical. By tapping into that frequency specifically, you can then take the plastic state of that energy and manifest it or crystallize it in any way, shape, or form that your device for, shall we say, conducting it is designed to manifest it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and do we ourselves have that device for conducting it?
You do. Although many people on your planet don't know that yet. But yes, your scientists are beginning, some of them in your terms in covert operations, to understand the concept of 0-point energy generators, and a few of them do exist on your planet as we scan your energy.
I meant as an individual, or so-called individual, do I have the conductive capacity? And that's my last question.
Biologically, you all conduct 0-point energy perfectly. That's how you manifest physical reality. You are all 0-point conductors. But in attempting to recreate it technologically, some of you have done that on your planet, and you all have the know-how. All you have to do is understand what you actually are as a resonating being. Because biologically, you're all designed as 0-point energy conductors and manifestors. Transformers in that sense. Make sense? Thank you.
5 minutes.
We will extend to each and every one of you at this time, once again, our deepest appreciation in allowing for the co-creation of this transmission. And once again, we urge you to explore the inner space of yourself. That is what will help you make a stronger connection to the outer space of what you call your physical reality, your universal reality, extraterrestrial contact. It isn't about meeting us. It's about meeting yourselves. That's what's important. Now we also understand that what's important is for you to feed yourselves. So by all means, enjoy your refreshment. We will communicate with you again at another time of your timing. And we extend to you our unconditional love and deep gratitude for the co-creation of this transmission this day, and bid you all a fond and exciting good day.